Everybody, welcome back. This is your host, Andrew Lasky. This is the Commissions and Cashflow Show. Today we have an amazing guest, Antonio Mainolfi. Antonio, welcome to the show, brother.
Happy to be here. This is awesome. Glad I get to have this conversation. We're on Zoom, but I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, Antonio, I've known you for about 3 years now. You've been an amazing person to me, helping me out. You're in the consulting business. You work with Bet David Consulting. Tell the audience a little bit about your background and your story and how you got into sales.
Yeah, great question. So, man, 3 years passed just like a snap of a finger. I can't believe it's been a couple years now. So a little bit about me, how we got started here. My journey into sales, my journey into where we are today, all started with the area of curiosity. When I was in college at Florida State University, shout out Knowles, I was told to read a book, Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. I had a small software company. That was my next step. Did I read the book? No. I wasn't really much a reader at that point in time. I put it on the back burner. That back burner was a pretty big burner. A few years later, my mom puts a newspaper on the table, says, hey, there's this entrepreneur, Patrick Bet-David, just moved down the street, 2 headquarters here. You have to check it out. Patrick Bet-David moved into the neighborhood. So I didn't read the book then, but you better believe I started reading the book now. One thing led to another. I said, you know what? There's an opportunity. He's in the neighborhood. Who doesn't want a mentor? Who doesn't want a coach? Who doesn't want somebody who's able to put you in a better phase of life, better phase of living? So I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of the journey. I applied for a couple of jobs. It just didn't work out. And I said, you know what? Is this really for me? I grew up knowing I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to build something, and now I want to work for the guy. Interesting. Is this the direction I want to go? So after a few weeks of convincing myself, I said, you know what? Maybe it's a good opportunity. I do want a mentor. I do want a coach. What if I could work alongside this mentor, this coach, Patrick? So alongside Patrick, in hindsight now, 3 years later, manager of Bet David Consulting, and it's been an absolute journey. So that's a bit of a fast track from where I started to how it began, but also 3 years later, now managing the divisions. Now there's just about 50 consultants here and counting, but man, it's been an incredible journey so far.
That's awesome. So when you actually went ahead and you read his book, what was it about the book that made you say, okay, I want to go interview and work with this guy?
So it's Your Next 5 Moves. So it shows the different areas, move 1, move 2. Move 1 is the best one. It's master knowing yourself, right? When you're having the conversations, it's easy to say it's the how-to, how do I do something, or it's the identity. If I can figure out the identity, the conversations I'm having with myself, the focus, the rooms I'm in, it could be the way we dress, or it's the how-to, how do I do something? How does this take place? It's more of the logical brain. The how-to it's 10% versus the identity. That's going to take 85, 90% of it. At that point, I said, you know what? If I can figure out me and where I'm going, that was a pivotal moment. It just made sense. That's when it all came together.
Awesome. So as far as getting into consulting, obviously that's the industry that Patrick is in after he sold his insurance company. Did you have a passion for consulting as well, or did that kind of just align with you wanting to be with him?
Best part about this all, this is my first sales job. I had zero experience in sales. Of course, I could sell my parents, sell my friends, and when I had my small software company, but this was a first opportunity as far as consulting, all from ground zero. I never had the experience. I didn't know it was a direction I wanted to go, but it's so clear. It's not only, personal development, improving with my family, my friends, the way we have conversations, what we do, how we drive, but also I had the opportunity and privilege to help change lives of entrepreneurs around the world. And it's something I wish I knew early on, that feeling, but it's such an incredible feeling to be able to pass the torch to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you were interviewing, at his company with no sales experience, obviously you had your software company, so you did have some, business background. What did you do to stand out? I'm sure there was other candidates that had sales experience that were interviewing, and you got the job, and a couple of years later, now you're the manager. But that initial moment where you were interviewing and it was your first sales job, what did you do to stand out?
No doubt. So there wasn't much standing out to do. There was, do you fit the culture? Do you fit the environment? Do you have a positive attitude? Do you want to be here? Of course, my background helped a little bit, but at that point, we were very, very brand new. The division wasn't even called Bet David Consulting. It was just, hey, we have events. We're hosting some opportunities. We have some masterminds you could be a part of. And we said, you know what? Hey, it could be, they saw it in me that say, you could be a good fit. Now, fast forward, I could talk about effort, attitude, teamwork, innovation, results. But the biggest thing early on is, hey, do you have a positive attitude? And Patrick always says, if you watch his videos and his content, I don't care about skill set. I care about your willingness to learn, your willingness to, it's 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Are you going to continue your appointments? Or are you going to cancel and go out on a Friday night? That's the type of conversation. Now, of course, you're also going to see us to say, of course, we need skill set. Yes, that's a given. But I care more about, are you going to get the job done? We're in the ninth inning, or in the seventh inning, ninth inning. We're in the last stretch. Can you keep pushing? That's who we want to be around. So I would say early on, very grateful. If I were to apply right now, I don't even know if I would have made it with the resume I had coming into it. But early on, it was an easy conversation.
That's awesome. So yeah, it sounds like it's all about controlling the things that you can control, such as effort, attitude, and your skill set will then eventually come as you progress with the company. So being that it was your very first sales job, there's going to be a lot of people in the audience where they might be going and looking for their first sales job, and they're unsure about what their day-to-day is going to look like in certain industries. And so on the consulting side, what does the typical day-to-day look like?
It depends, right? It depends on what level you want to be dependent on. Depends on what level you want to be relied on. Depends on what level you want to achieve. Some people are in sales because maybe their father was in sales, their mother, their friends. Hey, it's a great opportunity. I could drive the Porsche. I could do this. I could live a lifestyle I want to achieve. That's what I want. Okay. Or they're in it because they love the product. They love the service. They're backed by it so much where it's inevitable. It's in my blood. I'm just obviously going to tell you about how much you need this product because it means so much to me. It's ingrained to me. Or maybe you join sales because maybe it's a last resort. But what does the day-to-day look like? What's behind the scenes? What's involved? That's your question. It depends, right? You could be a part of it. You could work the 9 to 5. You could head out of the office at 5 p.m. To be completely honest, you're going to be mediocre at best at sales. Sales is always on. I can tell you right now, it's almost 8:30 on a Tuesday right now.
I'm still in the office.
I'm still in the office. The team, probably about 50%, 60% of all my consultants are probably still here. It's a typical night. I'll probably be here the next 2 hours, probably more of that, because I know what needs to be done. There's so much opportunity on the table. There's so much growth. Now I can say someone like Patrick Bet-David, just a little behind the scenes, we just launched our very own private Valuetainment cigar lounge. We're going to have NFL players. We're going to have so many people behind the scenes coming and spending time with us in the lounge, having conversations. And I'm talking about sales, I'm talking about a cigar lounge, but I'm talking about our ecosystem, right? We're hosting conferences around the world, 12,000 entrepreneurs in Orlando, Florida this year. We're going to the Kentucky Derby. We're going to Formula One. I could tell you everything that we're doing. We have a $41 million, 11-acre campus here on the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. We're going to have 2,000 employees here before we know it. We have a green light to hire 60 new consultants within 60 days. And it's not just something where Patrick's going to say, we'll see. We have 2 new recruiters starting. We have so much on the table, but I share all this because of course I'm going to work hard. I can make another phone call. I know what's going to happen here. I could go ahead. I could work the next hour. Why? Because I know my family is going to be working alongside me. I know my kids are one day going to be a part of the vision. They're going to be playing on our campus here. We're going to have schools. We're going to have universities. We have a gym opening on our campus here in about 3 weeks. We have a basketball court. We had talks about a pickleball court. I'm a pickleball guy. But to answer your question directly, it just depends on what level you want to live. Do you want to be mediocre and just jump in 9 to 5? Or do you want to give it your all weekends, holidays, birthdays, after hours? If my phone rings and it's Patrick, I'm going to have to mute myself. I'm taking the call. That's just great. So it totally depends.
That's awesome. So yeah, clearly you guys have an amazing culture over there, and it really shows. When you're prospecting or dealing with potential clients, like every industry is different. So when I was doing medical device sales, it was all in person. I used to have to drive about an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours just to go see a doctor. And if I was home, then I was losing money. I'm in real estate now full time. It's the complete opposite. It's like if I'm not in front of my computer talking to people, on social media or picking up the phone, I can get so much more done now. It's a completely different sales process than the industry I was in before. So when it comes to consulting, from a day-to-day standpoint, are you going out? Are you meeting with clients, face to face? Are you, picking up the phone and making dials? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So it totally depends on what is happening day to day, right? What I tell you now is probably going to change by tomorrow. But typically throughout the day, I say about 80% of my day, I'm talking to CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs. The profile is they're looking to build to scale, build to sell, or maybe a legacy succession planning for their business and for their family. Now they're looking for that clarity. They watch the podcast. They love Patrick. I jump on the phone and they just want to see, is it a video recommendation? Is it a book? Is it, hey, to be completely honest, I love the podcast. I didn't even know you guys have a division. We don't even advertise. That's the best part. No one knows who we are. They know Patrick. They may have seen his face. They don't even know we have a division. So I'm calling the community, see how we can provide value and see where that conversation takes us. 20% of my time, I'm helping build and scale our division. So anything that we're doing here, logistics-wise, systems, building out the company, I'm also a part of that. Very grateful for those conversations. But a day-to-day for myself, typically I'm about 18 to 20 meetings per day on Zoom, having conversations just like this on a computer. And for lunchtime, I like to get out of the office. Why? Get some, opportunity to meet some entrepreneurs, maybe meet some local friends, family that are in the area, or maybe it's just a client who's in town. I'd love to, have a quick conversation, 45 minutes to an hour. I can't really break away in the day-to-day, but I have a quick lunch that we could be a part of. But I am in front of the computer having our calls. But we have guests come in, fly in for the podcast. We have guests fly in for one-on-ones, consulting with Patrick. When they're in town, of course, we'll meet friends and family who are also coming with them. But typically, my day-to-day is on a computer just because we have so many people that are actually wanting to be a part of something that is more than just a quick transaction, a quick event. Patrick says, and I know this is something I wanted to share, Patrick is not interested in anybody being a part of the community unless it's for a 30-year run. Guys, we're 30 years. What does that mean? Patrick's on a 40-year run, but we're on a 30-year run to see where we could take your business. We could start at something very low. It could be 6 figures. It could be 3 figures. It can go all the way up to 7 figures. But we know what Patrick can bring. Patrick knows what he can bring. And it just depends on what level you want to do business with us, where you want to start. We know that, hey, we can start here. We can start 5 years from now. Take all the time you need. It's a matter of time before you come in the front door and we have a conversation. So to answer your question, it is over Zoom, but it's always open. It's always flexible.
That's awesome. Cool. So being that Patrick came from the insurance, industry, and you work with a lot of different entrepreneurs, you said mostly CEOs, founders, are these people, like founders and CEOs, are they mostly insurance companies, or what other industries do you really work with where you can really help their business?
It's a great question. Everybody in my book of business is insurance. No, I'm just kidding. I probably have, there's no joke. I can count on maybe one hand, maybe two hands on how many people I work with that are in insurance in different focus areas of insurance. But it could be trucking, logistics. It could be pallets. It could be custom upholstery. It could be dentistry, healthcare, produce. There's so many different industries. It's arguably 85% of business is all fundamental, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to build a sales team, leadership, culture, driver. Do you know how to build the systems and operations? Is there an employee handbook, HR, building an executive leadership team, and really being able to work on the business, but also who trains the trainer, who coaches the coach, who mentors the mentor. That's all part of the process. So as far as the industry, most of the business systematically, it is the same. The 10, 15%, it's all fundamental, right? What makes a law firm is not the exact same. What makes a company who builds, thermoses the same company. That's what makes it a little different. So any industry we could have conversations with, but they're going to need specialized people to have certain conversations, whether it's more of a systematic approach, or maybe the CEO needs a little bit more of a push. Maybe they need a driver, they need a leader, they maybe need a crucial conversation. Patrick will put them in the right area, right conversations. It's a large spectrum.
That's awesome. And so you don't have to give us all the secrets here, but when a client gets onboarded with you, and they tell you what their goals are, how do you guys keep them accountable so that they can reach their goals, so that they stay with you guys long term?
Yeah. And I'd say from the very beginning, the biggest area of opportunity, and I tell all my guys this, we have an intense training. They go through about, I think it's a 5-week onboarding. They leave HR onboarding. They go into our own onboarding to be a consultant here. They have a certain amount of trainings and systems. We have what's called Bet David Consulting University. We have a certain amount of tests they have to go through and drive for. And if they pass those tests, they can actually be onboarded to the team. But as far as what does the journey map look like? What does it look like when someone's onboarded? It goes for the needs analysis. Now, I have John here. John, listen, you came to me with this problem, or maybe you didn't even come to me with a problem. You told me about your business here, but I challenged you, or I anticipated a need, or I anticipated a problem or a leak in the business. And man, you weren't even thinking about that. Man, I'm challenging you to think other different ways, or I'm challenging you to really, that's how you guys do business? I love Patrick. Man, you guys are, wow, the value's over here. interesting. So someone being able to be not a yes man, someone highlighting the blind spots, having those conversations, that's where, at the very beginning, it's the needs analysis. If we're able to do a solid needs analysis, is there synergy? Is there an actual fit here? Then we'll consider doing business. I'll share this here. We're not for everybody. Not everybody who is a great candidate can just join one of our masterminds. Not anybody who has the money can actually join a one-on-one with Patrick. I can't just collect, the thousands of dollars. So for us, it's, can you do a proper needs analysis? Are they a good fit for the community? Are they net positive? Do they actually want to learn? Is there value here? Can we take a chance and see where the relationship takes us? I'm always a fan of starting small. You probably know, like, and trust Patrick. But hey, before we even dive into our conversation, why don't we just start here? 1, are you coachable? 2, is this something where you're actually going to execute? I always tell my clients, listen, how many books do you read a month? 1, 2, maybe 3. Sometimes I get a 4. Pretty audacious. But if you read 4 books a month, 3 books a month, can you actually implement that month over month? Are you having those conversations? Are you talking to people and actually implement it? If you're not, my next statement is, John, can I be direct with you? Yeah. You're reading all these books, you're doing all this, but if you can't implement, why are you doing so much?
You don't want to be a book reader. You need to take the information that you're receiving, and you got to actually act on it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's huge, but learned knowledge is not going to get you anywhere. So I have those conversations like, John, even if you join one of our events, or even if you join one of our masterminds, if it's a possibility, I have to get approval. But if you can join one of our masterminds and you're not going to execute, we're not going to go through the deliverables together, there's zero reason why you should be a part of the community, right? You're just going to be someone who hands us the money. If there's no return, if there's no benefit on your end, we're not in the business of just taking your money. We're in the business to say, listen, if you're able to grow, you're someone who appreciates being held accountable, you're coachable, I want to ask you for more money. Why? Because I know you're making more money. We're building our relationship. That's exactly what this is all about. So it just totally depends on, where they're headed, where they want to go. But to directly answer your question, it starts at the very beginning. It's the needs analysis.
That's awesome. So I want to turn the conversation back to you again. Before we get into the whole management side, going back to your life as a sales rep, you've sent me many gifts, super, super impressive. But to go from 0 sales experience and then to get promoted, you must have had like a lot of challenges. And so if you could just take like one challenge that you first had and how you overcame it, I think that would give the audience a very good perspective of somebody who's brand new and just crushing it in sales.
That is such a good question. I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's, we've had, whether it's really cool opportunities to finally have a first conversation in person, to coming out to events and you're handing over a gift or even going to lunch. It's been a journey, and I know we're reliving those thoughts here right now. I'd say the biggest lesson, there's so many, but the biggest one that just came to my mind is the thoughts you're having with yourself. Sales, if you're going to ask me here, the biggest strength you can have, whether you're going into sales or right now you're watching this and you're probably trying to figure out to get to that next level, can I do it? Is it for me? It's the voice in your head. It's the identity, right? It's the mental toughness. It's the EQ. It's everything behind the scenes. Patrick shares one thing on his mastermind. I'll share here. It's the conversation you have with yourself. Okay, let me go a little bit deeper. Sometimes you're going to catch yourself, you know what? Shoot, I didn't hit this number this month. I gave my commitment. I was going to drive this. I was talking to my team, or I was talking to my manager at this point. You know what? I didn't hit it. Okay, but at least I did this. But as soon as you have that thought of at least I did this, or at least I've done this in the past, you give yourself an exit. You give yourself a way out to say, oh, that's okay. I didn't have to because at least I did this before. It means you don't want to be challenged. That means you don't even really care to get to that point. That means, you know what? You're not even okay taking full responsibility or full accountability. Sales, you're going to get beat up, right? You're 5 more no's until you get your yes. Sure. But you have no idea. You have, 10 people that hung up on you today. You had 4 people that may have been late to the Zoom. You had 1 person that didn't show up. You had 3 people in the pipeline that actually fell through. 1 bought instead of buying a 6-figure engagement, they only bought a 4-digit engagement. Now your mindset's everywhere. That's only what you're dealing with. Maybe the operating as fast as you need to. Your desk is a mess because you're driving all day long. You probably had a messy meal. You didn't go out to eat. You ate at your desk. You have papers crumbled up. You have no idea what's going on. The guy next to you is trying to figure out, hey, is this guy okay? Because they can feel the emotion. It's a little hot in the office. You might be sweating. All that's happening. And then you enter in what's happening in the office, what's happening on the team, what's going on at home. Everything is going through your mind at that point. Mental overload, right? Emotion overload. You're trying to figure out what's going on. I'd say the biggest lesson for me is to compartmentalize, but also what are you solving for? You didn't sign, nobody else signed you up for this. Odds are you signed yourself up for sales. It's not easy, but it is so dang simple. You mean all I have to do is pick up my phone and call an entrepreneur to see if he wants to change his life, change his family? That's incredible. Now I could easily say this, but I'm gonna attach a quick story from me going through those motions, from me going through those conversations, not knowing if there's a future, not knowing what's next, because I don't know what that next is. Patrick does something very well, and there's many different areas, but in this scenario, it's re-recruit, re-incentivize, reevaluate, reinvigorate, bring the trust back, the opportunity. That why are we doing this? Sell the crusade, sell the dream. What's behind the scenes? There's one of my clients, we'll just call him John again. I go, John, why are you driving so hard? I'm challenging him. This sounds good. This sounds good. He changed businesses. He's starting from ground zero again. He's an older gentleman. He has a daughter. I'm like, John, why are you doing this? Why does this matter to you? I'm just trying to understand, John. John, come on the same side of the table as me. Or let me go to the same side of the table as you. Why are you doing this? Do I have permission to be direct? He goes, yeah, we're having a crucial conversation. And he goes, Antonio, I just love Patrick. I love Patrick so much. He was doing this, and that. I mean, he's empowered me, or he made me feel like, man, he's my mentor, all these different things. But if I can be direct, he said that he had cancer. And Patrick got to this level. He wants to keep driving. But his drive, his vision, his mission is to leave a family better off, no matter what happens with the legacy business, that they keep driving and support the family. But he gave all the credit to Patrick. And you better damn believe that fires me up to keep going. That's why we do what we do, because of stories like this. It's not just a phony sales process or things like that. We're in it for 30 years. And that's what's the best. Patrick will give you two sides. You can go this direction or you can go this direction. And it makes the process so simple because you're building relationships, you're building trust with people around the world. But I would say, to answer your question, it's mental and emotional toughness.
There's something that you said that I don't want to skip over. So, you said, like, do I have your permission to be blunt or to be honest, or provide feedback? So that's actually one thing that I learned from Patrick. When you're trying to break through to somebody and you feel like they're not listening to you, or you're not actually, connecting, just by saying, hey, do I have permission to be honest with you? Or do I have your permission to give you real feedback? It completely opens up the prospect, the client, or whoever, and it allows you to actually now start communicating with the person that you're across from. So it's just something that you said that for the audience, I wanted them to hear that, because that is something that I started actually implementing into my sales process, and it got my clients to start trusting me more. Because when you go and you give somebody, let's say, not the best feedback, it could hurt them, right? But if you then say, hey, do I have your permission to give you honest feedback? And they say yes, then it allows you to, obviously be very honest with them. And again, it just opens up the whole conversation.
Yeah. And I'll go a little bit deeper. We'll have that. Do I have permission to be direct? Yes. Are you sure? What I might say next might hurt your feelings. And at this point, it's just a direct challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they take it and they want to keep going, they're coachable. If they hang up the phone, maybe it wasn't for them. But it depends on where the conversation is going. But typically, it could be a blind spot. Maybe it's just, hey, we're in pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. We know, we've seen this before thousands of times. We've seen this thousands of times. I just want to ask a simple question. Are you sure that's the reason why you're doing what you're doing? Or are you just giving yourself an excuse? Things like that.
Yeah. So now moving over to like the management side. So earlier in the show, you mentioned that, I think you want to hire like 60 new consultants over the next 60 days or something of that matter. When you're looking at hiring somebody, I mean, earlier we talked about mental attitude, effort, things that you can control, but you probably get so many people that are interviewing, they apply to work at, Bet David Consulting or any part of the Valuetainment community. What is something other than what we've already spoke about that, as you're going through and interviewing these people, like what would get somebody the job over somebody else?
I'll make it so simple. And that's a very good question, because it's actually something we spoke about an hour ago. It was just a simple conversation behind the scenes. You can have someone, they're a perfect fit. College, they're local, they don't have to travel. Maybe they're at this point, you don't know if they have a family, but maybe you saw when they graduated high school, or you saw when they graduated college, or you saw when, how many jobs they've had in the past. You could probably tell age. If they pass the resume, they have sales experience. You don't see too many hops between jobs. Are you dating? you've only been with the longest company 5 months. Why would we hire you? Right? We want a marriage. We want something where you're able to have your kids join and have that conversation, join long term. And right, the objection is, hey, I don't know unless I find the best environment. Well, you know, because you should have evaluated yourself, and you haven't evaluated yourself. Maybe this is not the right area. We're not here to test to see if this is good. We have big dreams. Valuetainment is going to take over the world. That's the mindset. So what's the biggest thing? If you pass the resume, you're crystal clear on the resume. Before you even come in for an interview, there's a 7-step process that we vet out before even stepping foot in the Valuetainment HQ. Now, they have to read one of Patrick's books. They have to watch a series of videos. They have to build a business plan. They have a conversation with the SME or a CME, subject matter expert. It's a whole process. There's about 11,000, maybe at this point, 12 to 13,000 applicants, and we only hire less than 1%. And from all of that, it's a fraction, right? From anybody who comes in, by the time they come in person, the biggest thing is a killer instinct. You can have the best resume, but if you can't come in and have that killer instinct, how are you going to convince a CEO that you're going to take his business from going bankrupt to having the ease where his pillow is soft at night again? Or how are you going to take a spouse, a wife, a father, from not having those bad conversations where they're about to divorce or the business is about to have a divorce? No, what is that paradigm shift? What is that conversation you need to have? Can you actually process and have that conversation? Is it the mental toughness, the emotional toughness? Is it the identity? Is it the charisma? Is it the trust? What is it that you have that you're able to say, you know what, I'm able to help this entrepreneur? Is it the conviction? All that you're able to see in person. You can shake hands. For me, it's almost like the back of my hand. Once you shake somebody's hand, you know, man, that's that guy or that gal, man, I can't wait until they have the opportunity to jump on the phones, because you know what's going to happen. You know, man, he talks very soft. Can you say that again? Like, have those conversations. Can you put it on a resume, but can you actually have that killer instinct? Can you actually drive? It depends. But I would say the biggest thing is knowing how bad they want it. What's the chip on their shoulder to allow them to keep pushing forward? That matters most.
One of the things that you can do to outperform so many people in your industry, your teammates, your competition, everybody, is just move with 1, intention, and 2, urgency. If you can have both of those, you can be intentful about your day, all of your actions, have your schedule filled, and actually follow up, be on time. When somebody says, hey, can you send this over to me? You actually do that. That all goes like with the killer instinct that you're referring to. Now that you're in management, you have like more responsibility. How has your role changed?
There's a staircase I typically draw out at this point in time when we're going through training. You're always going to suck before you get to that next level, right? You're always going to suck before you get to that next level. You've seen it from the events you've been at with us. But every single day, there's a new level of expectation. Every single day, what you were able to handle, you're now expected to be here. You're expected to drive. Why? Because I'm working with the founder, a leader, CEO, #1 YouTube and podcast for entrepreneurs around the world, #1 Wall Street bestseller, all these different things, 10 different companies. The level of expectation is there. What am I doing? My role has only gotten far more intense. Am I selling? More than ever. Nothing's changed on that front. In fact, it's probably trying to quadruple. It can't do anything unless there's moral authority, right? Am I going to listen to someone who can't even, really? You mean I can do this? It's that easy and you can't even, why would I listen to you? You have to have that moral authority. That's 1. 2, being in management, you have to convince others that they can do things that they never even thought was possible. I'll highlight their blind spots, drive them, poke them, push them. Sometimes maybe I'll push them close to their limits and say, okay, is this someone who is mentally there? Is someone who wants it, or they just have an ego? Being able to trust, but verify, have those conversations. What's my role? Driving, selling, pushing. Also, that's the best part about it, by the way, because, it's like just what I mentioned here, the conversations to feel why entrepreneurs do what they do. Oh, you want a legacy business? Why? Because if this is what happened with my parents, my family, that is so dang exciting, because I've been talking to them from the get-go. It's 3 years now. Look at where they are. It's so dang invigorating. I can't even take that credit. All that credit goes to Patrick. But just to be able to know the impact we're creating, that's where conviction comes from. Selling, yes. Driving, yes. Pushing people to do what they never thought was possible. And what that means is, behind the scenes, we have the formula to develop leaders who develop leaders who develop leaders. And Patrick says, you guys, you know what? You know why I'm so convinced we're going to win? Is because we have the formula to develop leaders. And it's the culture, it's our credo, it's everything we follow, but it's all thanks to Patrick, because we know being a good candidate for a job, whether it's Bet David Consulting, Valuetainment, you have to have a positive attitude. There's so much behind the scenes, but the #1 determination, if you don't have a positive attitude, we're not interested. We're changing the world. But we want you to be at your fullest potential. If you can't find it, maybe this is not the right opportunity. We'll try something else. But of course, we're in the results business. You have a quota, you have things to drive and push for. That's the name of the game, right? It's sales. We're in the results-based business. If you can't make it, it's not for you. Next.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you guys are, constantly developing yourselves, developing your teammates, and then also developing your clients. One thing that you said earlier that kind of like struck a chord with me is, how do you take a business owner or founder that is about to go bankrupt, where literally that phone call, that could be their last decision that they ever make for their company. And so be able to have that conviction, that drive, that understanding of, the value that your company brings and what you can do for them is incredible. So Antonio, thank you so much for providing the insights. And we're going to get to the final part of our show here, which we call the final four. These are the same four questions that we ask everybody that comes on the show. And so the first one is going to be, what is your favorite sales book or your favorite sales movie?
Sales book or sales movie? The first book that came to mind, it's actually the book I'm reading now with my team. It's Sales EQ, right? We could talk about all these different sales books, but Sales EQ, from being able to understand the conversations you could have and nimble and navigate and dance in the conversation, you have to have your own EQ on the call. I'd say if there's a movie, it's going to be Wolf of Wall Street, 100%.
Awesome. What's like one sales strategy or tactic that you implemented that just clicked and just changed everything for you?
Genuine. Just being genuine. Listen, if this is going to help this entrepreneur, they've been running this business, they've been driving here, they've been having these conversations, they have no idea who to trust, they've been burned in the past, man, I'm going to be your best friend. I'm going to be your best friend, because if you do decide to give me the green light and we charge the card, guess what? You just told me that I'm interested in seeing where you could take this relationship. So being genuine and just giving them all the right cards up front. I'm going to serve them by making sure I ask them the right questions. I'm going to challenge them by getting the right answers to those questions. And if it makes sense and we're a fit, I'm going to say, listen, there's no reason, based off what you shared, there's no reason why we don't move to the next steps. Having those conversations, being genuine would be my answer.
I love that. What is your most favorite purchase that you've ever made with a commission check?
Man, I've made some awesome purchases.
I think you told me the other day you just got a new car.
Yes.
Recently.
Yep. No, that's been incredible. I'll go a little deeper than just a new car. I would say the biggest thing for me is being able to support and drive or support and being able to buy things for my parents and my family. We're giving back. You gave me such an incredible life. They don't know this, but going to Italy, whether it's Formula One, my dad loves Formula One, being able to just be a part of experiences and not having to worry. Don't worry, it's been taken care of. You're being able for me to have those conversations with myself and say, man, this is what I'm driving for. Being able to front that check or front the experience, that's been incredible. But giving back for the family, I'm going to go that direction.
That's awesome. I love that. So knowing what you know now and the years of experience that you now have in sales, if you had to start all over again, what would be the very first thing that you would do to get it all back?
If I had to start all over again, but I knew exactly what I knew right now, pick up the phone and start freaking dialing.
Hell yeah.
It would be work ethic. It would be, listen, you've done it before. You have the identity, you have the courage, the charisma, the drive, the know-how. At this point, it just depends on how bad you want it. And if that's clear for you, just get to work. If what you have and what you're selling and what you're driving for, you believe in it, you trust in it, and you're going to hear this from all the gurus out there, right? Well, believe in the product or you can sell it and things like that. Do they actually need it before you can sell the pen? But if you actually fully know that this is going to help and support this entrepreneur, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure they have it. Because if they say no on the phone, they sold me. I don't want to keep getting sold. But being able to get back up and keep trying again, it's that mental know-how and keep pushing for it because you're made for it. That one no before you get that yes. And man, when you get that yes, it's the most dang rewarding yes.
Yep, it sure is. Antonio, you're an incredible guy. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So online, social media, it's Tony Talking. More than happy to have a conversation and join. But Drew, man, it's always a great conversation, my man. I'm looking forward to it. And we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Antonio.
You bet.